this, but in looking at the task 1 for the APTEL, it doesn't specify for the literature review how many sources we're supposed to have. Is there a set number for each one of those different categories that we have to have for the literature review?
Yeah, great question, Cyrus. Go back to the default of the APSL, 3 to 5. 3 to 5. Yeah, and I will talk about that and kind of mention that again, just for anybody that might be coming in late. If I don't mention it, please remind me to mention it. Yeah, 3 to 5. Yeah, good question.
Hey, I'm trying to down my pizza as fast as I can, Dr. Bullis. So I'll have my camera off for a minute because y'all can't handle that.
Well, Todd, the problem isn't that you're sitting there eating pizza in front of us. The problem is I don't have any either. So that's where the hurt feelings.
I didn't share.
Yeah. I've dropped a few pounds here lately, getting back into running. I signed up for a marathon, so that's a surefire way of being motivated to get going. So yeah, I see some of the reactions. So pizza and I will not have a date for a long time, maybe after the marathon. So yeah, used to run quite a bit, and then I had some issues with my back. It kind of threw me out, but man, my back's doing great now. So I'm pushing a little bit further, so I feel good about it. So yeah, I'm signed up for a Run for God marathon. So I used to run quite a bit with that organization. If you ever want to check it out, Run for God. It's a really cool running program. It's actually a Couch to 5K, but they got a Run for God club too. And I used to do quite a bit of work with them, and even directed some races for them back in the old days. So I kind of reconnected with them, and they talked me into running a marathon. So, or I apologize. I should have said they talked me into waddling a marathon. I don't run. I waddle. So, but anyway, while Todd finishes his pizza, and thank you for letting us know about that, Todd. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody. I hope you've had a good couple of weeks with your course instructor. It was good seeing you all and popping into your Dr. Sanders class if you're in Dr. Sanders, and then Dr. Neal's class if you're in Dr. Neal's class. It was good popping in and saying hey. Kind of the same scenario that we had in 601. We're kind of grouping everybody together as a 602 cohort for your internship. Some of you, as I just said, are in Dr. Sanders' course, and then some of you are in Dr. Neal's course. Not really a lot of difference between those course instructors, so I don't think I'm going to have to differentiate a lot on any of that. But while that's on my mind, and it may be resolved by then, but something is going on with Turnitin and Blackboard. I've been talking to Dr. Lamb about it, and also Dr. DeFry, who's like the tech person for Gardner Webb, and they're working on it, but none of you are to the point to where you have to do anything at Turnitin now. Anyway, some of my 605 students are trying to turn some stuff in through Turnitin. So like I said, I fully anticipate it being resolved by the time you get there. It's just locked up, something about a 5-year license, and I don't know. It's above me what needs to be done. But Turnitin for the APTEL right now is off. We'll get it resolved hopefully by the time you get there. If any of you get close in the next week or so, then we might have to do something different. But like I said, it should be resolved by the time you get there. Well, once again, welcome to 602. You guys are experts now. You just finished the hardest part of the program, and that's the 601. The process is the same. Really the amount of workload on you is a whole lot less because you're not having to learn the process of, well, what do I drop into my Blackboard course shell? What do I drop into my Blackboard internship? And what the heck is task stream? And what do I put in task stream? And who do I get reviewed from? And what's the peer review? And then what's the regular review? And what's the feedback? And I get a grade here and I get a grade there. And no. So you've been through all that. And so it's going to get easier as far as knowing the process, learning the process, becoming routine. In 602, a couple of things you don't have to do is the school of ed disposition and the competency analysis. All you really got to do in task stream, and and I'll pull it up here in a minute, and we'll just kind of reorient ourselves. But as far as the DRF goes, you just have to upload your APTL. So I'm going to share my screen. Well, let me pause for a minute. Are there any other questions that's just burning a hole in your brain right now? All right, groovy. This is a high flying group here, high flying group. Of course, I tell that to everybody, but I really mean it with you guys. Of course, I tell everybody I really mean it with them, but I really, really, really mean it with you guys. All right, so let's get into the share screen and okay, let me get it going here. Blackboard. One thing I do want to bring to your attention, if you pull up Blackboard, and you should be seeing my Blackboard shell right now from Web Connect. If you're not seeing that, somebody, turn off your mic and let me know. Except for you, Todd, you finish your pizza. We don't want to interrupt you there, buddy. Just joking. But anyway, on the Blackboard shell, you'll notice there is you may see under spring 2021, you may see a new internship shell, 2020 MELS 696 A28 internship, instructor Joe Bullis. That's populated on there. I don't know how it got populated on there. I didn't do it. That's not the one we're going to be working under. So just ignore that. You don't drop anything into that. I've asked for it to be removed. It hasn't happened yet. The one that you want to be sure that you drop all your stuff is the one that we've always used. And that's the MELS clinical internship that says _ Bullis. So just make sure that you get to the one that says _ Bullis. That's the one we're going to use. And that's the one we've always used. This is where here, nothing's been included. It may have been copied over as far as content and stuff goes, but we're not using that. So just make sure that when you look at the Blackboard courses that you click on the one that says clinical internship _ Bullis. Make sure that that you do that. So, and the process is the same as it's been, as far as the Blackboard shell. Once you get your APTL, you've got the APTL task for review, and you got the APTL evaluation Dropbox. Once you get your APTL, excuse me, and you want to get feedback on it before you get it graded from me and getting it ready to go to TaskStream, you just put it here, and then we'll give you feedback. And then when it's ready to be graded and kind of the last nail hammered in, we'll do the evaluation Dropbox. I do also want to remind you that there'll be video. This is where I'll store all the recordings. The recording from tonight's class, I'll restore it drop it into the video library. And templates and resources, I just want to draw your attention to this too. You've probably already seen it. You're still working under the APA 7th edition. Main thing with that is you just talk in the first person. But there is an APTL final evidence narrative template that you can use. I recommend that you take a look at that, just very similar to the APSL, and also the APTL helpful hints. That's probably in your core shell. I think Dr. Sanders and Dr. Neal both have put it into their core shell. But if for some reason it's not there and you need another place to find it, you can find it within my templates and resources folder for the APTL.
Dr. Bullis?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way that underneath the clinical coach Zoom meetings that you could add the document that you emailed us? Because right now it only shows like 601 and 605.
Give me a little more information. I'm not sure what you're referring to there.
So you emailed us a schedule on January 8th, which contains.
Does it not show the 602?
It does not show 602 underneath the Blackboard. It's only in our email. And so I think, did anyone else have trouble finding the Zoom link unless they went to their email, or was it just me? Yes.
Okay, and I'm sorry about that. I thought there was some issues with email to where email wasn't working. I thought that got resolved. I'm going to bring that up just to make sure I know. Is this what we're talking about? Okay, yeah. Yes. 602 is in orange, like January the 11th. that's got all of the, okay, I will send that out immediately to the 602 cohort, tonight's class and
It
the
is in
link.
our email. However, it's just not on Blackboard, where we're kind of used to go into Blackboard, click.
Thank
Does
you.
that make sense?
Yes, it does now. It does now. That's my bad. I forgot to drop it in there, but there was that's not a problem. I will put that in there tonight. Okay, let me go back to where I was at. Thank you so much for asking me that question and let me know. So I will put that into clinical coach Zoom meeting schedule. Yeah, I need to get rid of all that. I have not done that. So yes, I will take care of that tonight. Thank you so much for letting me know. Any other questions about the shell that needs to be resolved? Okay, groovy. I will do that. I will do that. So we got that, got the clinical video library, talked about the contents and the APTL there. So also in task stream, let me get rid of this little thing. Okay, task stream. Just do a brief view and then we'll talk about the APTL 1 and 2. Okay, just a reminder that you have a DRF and a competency folio. This is what I was talking about early in your DRF for MELS 602. All you got to drop in this semester is the APTL. You don't have to do a school ed disposition or a competency analysis. Also, the other thing is make sure that you keep your competency folio up to par. And with your artifacts that you collect for the APTL, you want to drop those in. Let me go back here and do this, and do this, and do this. Okay, just remember, there's going to be different competencies that relate to the APTL. Communication is not one of them. Remember, here is where you kind of get a guideline of what needs to be dropped in there. Make sure that you label it appropriate. When you're ready for me to take a look at it or you want comments on anything, then you just hit request comments and follow that. Do not do public or publish or share, because that's just sharing this website with somebody. It's not the comment or the feedback process. Like I think I told you last semester, if you wanted to share this in an interview, this is where you would do that, to share it with the person that's going to be interviewing. Conflict management, I think, yeah, conflict management. There's APTL here for that. So you just want to go through those just like you did in 602. Any that apply to the APTL, certainly put those in there. Any additional things that you may want to put in as open-ended, you can do that too. Just make sure that you appropriately label it. You will be doing 80 hours again this semester for your internship. If you're having a problem getting those 80 hours, let me know. Remember, in the clinical handbook, the clinical coach's handbook, and probably even in the syllabus, there's some great suggestions there in relationship to what's going on with remote learning, rotational schedules, COVID response. There's some great examples in there that you could log some internship hours in with that. So if you got a question on, will this internship hour that I'm thinking about, will that count? Just shoot me an email and we'll talk it through. So any questions on the review of how to submit your APTL task 1 and so on, or task stream right now? Any questions on any of that? Like I said, you kind of just, the main focus is to get the APTL task through. But before the end of the semester, make sure that you have your competency folio up to date, because each semester, update it for that semester. Then at the end, when you're in 605, you don't have to scramble putting stuff in and remember. And that's why on that internship log, it's a good thing if you remember that proof column. There's a good place to notate, I've got this artifact for this, and it associates with this competency. Just kind of keep track of where you got everything at. Any questions?
Dr. Billis, on the
Yes,
clinical
ma'am.
hours, we have to have 80. What are like the start and end dates approximately for that?
Great question. I will accept anything after the last day of last semester. If you did anything over the break, we'll take that all the way up to the last day of this semester. And as you prepare for summer and whatever summer is going to look like in spring, anything that occurs before summer class, which is a really short turnaround between spring semester and your summer courses. But anything happening during that time, I'll take care of that as well. So anything that you did over Christmas break since last semester in preparation for this spring that you didn't get on fall 2020, you can count it for spring 2021. Great question.
This is a question that I'm really thinking ahead, but do we have to do the 80 hours over our summer as well, an additional 80, or is it just the spring and the fall?
Great question. Yes, ma'am. 80 hours in the summer, and that is a short turnaround. So you kind of want to be prepared for that. Of course, in the summer, there's a lot of opportunities there. Not as much used to be. I think when I came through in the master's program, I just took a week and volunteered a week right after school was out and the work days were over. I told my principal, I said, I'm gonna be here all week next week. Whatever you need me to do, that's what I'll do. And I was counting textbooks, moving furniture. I think I even cleaned it, which kind of be hard to do 80 hours cleaning some classrooms. But anyway, I think I just did that for a whole week, and I counted all that week as hours. So yeah, you need to be prepared for that during the summer. You will have to log those 80 hours in then as well, and that's a 10-week course, not the 15-week that you're used to. Great question, Heather, and it's good that you hear that now. Cyrus, Todd, I see you, but Cyrus, I think I saw your hand raised first. And then Todd, I'll come to you.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Heather asked. So is it okay if, like what you did with yours, or is it okay if we do that as well? So like, I know that we finish, I should know the last day of school. I've looked at my calendar multiple times for this semester, but I don't quite remember it. But I know that right after that, we have like a week of optional planning days. So are we able to still use that time, like all of those days, as long as we're working on some sort of task to count for the internship hours?
Yes, sir. Great question, Cyrus. You can certainly count that. Anything during that time, even if it happens on an optional work day, doesn't that's cool. That's cool as long as it's some type of administrative leadership type opportunity. Somebody asked me today. I'm trying to remember what the question was. It's escaped me right now what the example was, but the point I was going to make is if you got any questions, whether you can count it or not, email me, because the person said, well, I don't think I can count this. And I'd have to look at my email because I can't remember what it was. And I said, well, now, wait a minute, let's think about this. Are you doing this? It's test coordinator. I'm test coordinator at the school. Can I count testing? I probably can't count testing. I said, no, if you're in the classroom being a test administrator, you can't count those hours of testing. However, if you're the testing coordinator, you probably help devise the testing plan for the school. You help coordinated check-in and check-out on testing materials. You can count those hours. And they said, well, I didn't think about that. They were just kind of focusing on doing the test administration. So, like I said, if you got any question and you kind of want to, hey, would this count? Just shoot me an email and let me know. But get back to what you said, Cyrus. You can certainly play it off like I did. Just take a whole week and knock them out in 1 week. Absolutely. Todd, I think you are next on the question queue.
I have two totally irresponsible questions. The first, we only have one summer term we have to take, right?
Yeah, because you'll be graduating next spring.
Okay. And then, so it starts right after the spring. Do you know about like when it ends? Like what it runs through?
Yeah, it's a 10-week program. It's July 14th. Oh, thank you, Claire. Jump in there. What did you say? I can't.
Sorry, I think when we looked at it the other day on the Gardner web calendar, it was the 27th.
Okay. End of July 27th. Yep. Thank you, Claire.
Okay. Thank you.
What's the second irresponsible question?
Well, it was just the fact that we only had one.
Oh, okay. All right. Good deal.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
deal. Okay.
Yeah.
I missed it. I missed it. So you combined them. See, I'm still thinking about the pizza, man. You still got me hung up on the pizza, but that's okay. That's okay. Good deal. Somebody else had a question.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yes, sir. Hey, Drew.
How are you?
Good.
With these hours, can they look similar to our other ones? Because like with athletics and all that running in our county, I mean, I'm gonna get a ton of hours with the game day administrator and stuff like that. And like with buses in the morning, I'm over our buses and stuff like that, and that's what I used for the last semester. Is that fine as well? If it's kind of similar on that, or do you want something totally different than that?
Another great question. I'm okay with it. Just kind of keep me updated. If it's a lot, and like there's new opportunities, and then there's opportunities that's just routine. It's still part of being a principal. I kind of look at it the same way. Well, I counted reading night spring semester because I facilitated reading night. Well, this semester we're facilitating math night. Well, yeah, it's a lot of the same activities, but then again, there's some differences there. I supervised, volleyball and cross country this semester for the first time ever that I've been involved in public education. We're playing football in February, so now you'll be kind of supervising football. So along with that different venue comes some different responsibilities. So yeah, there is some validity to that, and there is some credibility enough that we can count those hours. Bus duty, like I said, there's only so much you can do with bus duty, but as I look at it, if you don't have to wait till the end of the semester to send me your log. If you want to kind of send it to me incrementally through the semester, I'll be happy to look at it. And I'm like I said, my default's always going to be yes. Sometimes I have to say no, but I look for ways to say yes with everybody that I work with. So we'll look at it and take a look. So yeah, I'm not saying don't count that out, Drew, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, because like the only reason I'm asking is I've got about 40 hours for our basketball because we start at 3:45 and I don't leave after everything until close to 8 o'clock at night. So I mean
Well, yeah, great point. 40 hours out of half of your 80 hours is just basketball duty, and the 40 hours, that's probably going to be a stretch there to be able to count that whole 40. Because
Okay.
at some point in time, the leadership opportunities of that time frame is going to be exhausted. So always keep in mind, is there something else out there that I can count? Great question. Hey, Ashley.
Hey again. Can we bank hours? As far as like I've already met my 80 by the time that the end of the school year rolls around, and then they're working on scheduling kids in summer school.
Ashley, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you, but I don't know if it's just my computer, but you're lagging out on me. I can't hear. Okay. Yeah, I guess everybody's kind of getting the same interference there. Yeah,
now?
Ashley, if you can hear, I'm not sure your connection's mixed up. If you want to type your question in the chat, or we'll try it again.
Okay, I'll try it again.
Yeah, Ashley, if, like I said, I don't want to miss that question. So if maybe try typing it in the chat, and I'll come back to it. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what it is. Probably a storm cloud went over. Thank you. Appreciate the hand signal there. All right. Anybody else got a question while we're kind of waiting on that chat? All right, groovy. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll certainly come back to Ashley's question here in just a moment. I want to pull up the scale handbook because I do want to talk to you a little bit about APTL task 1 and task 2. I did have some questions on that this week. And then if we don't get to that question, Ashley, make sure that we come back to it. I don't want to leave the class with that question not answered. So in the APTL, like I told you, I think I told you this when I popped into Dr. Sanders, Dr. Snell's class, basically the same thing, except for an action plan dealing with student learning. You're going to be conducting research, needs assessment, pulling in some quantitative, qualitative data, determining needs, creating an action plan for teacher empowerment, teacher leadership. So I think I told you this before, you know, of course, the students are your main stakeholders in the building, but just as important and very close to being on the same level is your teachers are your other stakeholders. And there's some development there and progress and performance and monitoring that needs to occur. So part of your you know, your focus as a school administrator is going to be making sure that your students are making progress and moving forward. Well, also for your teachers as well. What type of professional development is needed? Where are you in terms of best practices? So I think it says it here, you know, the job is to empower your teachers to become leaders and decision makers. And believe you, that makes your job a whole lot more easier as a principal. And you guys know this. I mean, you guys are all teacher leaders. You're all empowered and decision makers, or you wouldn't be in this program. So I'm sure your principals are very appreciative of the fact that they got people like you in the building. When I was a principal, and you know, there was a core group of teachers, elementary, middle, and high school. But when I was at, you know, at each level, when I was a high school principal, man, I relied on a core group of teachers that were just some very powerful teacher leaders to help me with the school, and also to kind of be good to pull in and bounce ideas off, kind of like a informal professional learning community. I think I called them the Principals Advisory Council or something. And just to kind of pull them in and utilize their leadership and their experience in making decisions for the school. All right, I see the chats come through. I'm going to jump down here real quick before we get much into APTL Task 1 and take a look at the chat here. Okay, let me stop. I think I'm going to need to stop share the screen here because I'm not seeing it. Okay, here we go. The question was, can we bank hours? For example, if we have already met our hours and we are scheduling students for summer school, etc., could we use the hours from the last few weeks of school towards our summer clinical hours? Great question, Ashley. Thank you for persevering there and getting that across. As long as it is kind of like I told you last semester, you could count some summer hours as long as it was in preparation for the beginning of the school. As long this spring, as long as it is in preparation for summer activities, yeah, I'll let you bank those hours. If you've already got your 80, and then the principal said, well, I need you to do this. We got to start getting ready for summer. Probably going to happen around April or May. Got to start getting ready for summer. I need you to do this, or can you take care of this? And it's in preparation for that summer period. Maybe even some remote learning, or, you know, tutoring sessions, summer camp, whatever, summer remote learning camp. Yeah, absolutely let you bank those hours. Just stay in the kind of close contact with me on what that'll be. Because you know, like I said, just kind of make sure I got a good understanding of everything on that. But yes, you can bank the hours as long as you've got your 80 for this semester completed, and those activities are in preparation for the upcoming time period. Excellent, great question. Okay, so said, okay, let me jump back in on the APTL here. Okay, another question. Are you with us for the summer? As far as I know, I am. It kind of rotates. 1 year, I'll take a group of 601 all the way through to 605, and then another cohort, I take them to 603, and then I rotate back into 601, and I don't have them for 604 and 605. I don't know. It seems to be random when that happens. I think it's all due to numbers at Gardner Webb. This group that I've got in 605, I've had them since 601. So I will feel like I'll definitely be with you at 603. I might lose you at 604 and 605, but we'll kind of, You guys are too kind. You guys are too kind. Y'all are so sweet now. Stop it. I appreciate that. That really means a lot to me. Thank you very much. But we'll just kind of okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to turn the chat off because you guys are distracting me there. I see the pizza comment and the Team Bullis. I don't think I've ever been referred to as Team Bullis before. Thank you. They've said some other things associated with my last name, but team has never been in front of it. Guys, thank you so much. Definitely feel positive that I'll be with you at 6:03. But anyway, you go to 6:04 and 6:05, and I'm not your clinical coach. You reach out to me anyway. I don't turn the switch off. I've still got people who have graduated the program and are administrators now contacting me about things, and we just kind of formed a friendship, and that's the way I see it. So whether I'm your clinical coach at 6:04 or 6:05, if you need any help, you just let me know. Okay, so let's go back into the APTL here. Do my screen and pull that up. And I'm going to kind of, as I said earlier, the APTL is a lot like the APSL, other than instead of working for improvement in student learning, you're going to be working for teacher improvement, teacher progression, teacher learning. It's all about leading your teachers and empowering them to be able to make effective decisions and be leaders in your school. So in task one, what do? Well, kind of in task one of the APSL, you did research on professional learning community. Task one of the APTL is you conduct research on best practices. What are best practices? If your school is an effective school, if your school and your teacher efficacy is at a high, then there should be some evidence of that. If you have some teacher leaders in the building, if you have a group of teachers who feel empowered and making decisions based on that empowerment, then there should be some recognized best practices that are occurring in your building. Just kind of like if you walk the walk, if you talk the talk, you walk the walk, then you should be able to see evidence of that. There should be evidence out there. So what task one is, first of all, if you don't know what you're looking for, then you're not going to know it if you see it. So you need to research what are some of those best practices of teacher empowerment, teacher efficacy, teacher leadership. What does research say? What does Marzano say about that? What does Whitaker say about that? What does Simon Sinek say about that? So there's some experts in the field who've done research on empowered teachers, teacher leaders, shared decision making, so on and so forth. You research that out, just like you did with the APSL in research and professional learning communities. You do an annotated bibliography on teacher empowerment, teacher leadership, so on and so forth. We'll get into the nitty gritty here in just a minute. That's task one. Now, from that research, you create a research tool, a research instrument to determine, okay, if I do all this reading and these experts, if Marzano is telling me that empowered teachers do this, schools where empowered teachers work have evidence of this. And like I said, I should be able to go out and see that in my building. So I'm going to, based on that research, I'm going to create a checklist. Marzano even has some checklists that he recommends. And I'll get into that in just a minute as well. But based on research, I should develop this checklist of that I can go and walk out and collect some qualitative data that is going to be correlated to those best practices that I just read about and research. That's task one. Do the research, make a checklist of best practices. Just a checklist for yes, I see it, no, I don't. Does it have to be a Likert scale on, somewhat disagree to completely disagree, or somewhat evident to completely evident? Doesn't have to be a Likert scale. It can be just the check off. I see it or I don't see it. See it or I don't see it. Kind of like the old teacher performance evaluation instrument. Then in two,
Dr. Bullis,
yes.
am I lagging?
No, I can hear you fine now, Ashley.
Okay. My question is, for task one, I'm struggling with the checklist because I'm not sure. If you read the hints, it says to use one that's, or do not create it. Use one that's already available. and then also use one that's probably from your district. So I am really uncertain if I'm supposed to have two separate ones or just even utilize the one that my district or my school already has implemented and make that work.
Ashley, yeah, thank you so much for that question. That's the problem with some of that helpful hint document. We were asked to put that out there, and there are some discrepancies. You do not have to follow that. You can do either one. Remember, we're all about flexibility here. If you've got one that's being used, then yeah, you can use that. If you want to go out and find one, then yeah, you can, like I said, Marzano's got some out there. There's checklists available out there if you just do a research. If you want to create your own, I'm okay with that as well. But the thought behind it is, if you can find it and use it and not have to spend time creating it, then that's what I would recommend that you do. But it's, there's some flexibility with that. It's not cut in stone.
Okay, yeah, my school just has like a Google form that they use for walkthroughs, which in turn came from our district. And so I did not want to spend my time trying to create a checklist that matched my literature review if I already had a usable walkthrough evaluation.
That walkthrough evaluation, do you know what that was based on? What research it was based on?
I have no idea. I just saw the comments and asked like, hey, like, what do you guys use? And so that's where I'm confused. Like, could I use that in my paper to actually use it to be, consistent with the actual walkthroughs that my principals are going to do, or even, virtual drop-ins on other teachers' Google Classrooms? Or that's why I'm really struggling with task one.
Right.
I can write the literature review, but as far as coming up with a checklist, do I need to create my own plus use the school one, or does it matter?
No, don't do double work, Ashley. You do not need to do that. Remind me to come back to this question in just a moment, because if you want to send me the checklist and email to review, and we kind of work on it together to see where the correlation is, and to the best practices that's in the prompt, and I'll get to that in just a moment. We can do that. So great question. So let's put a pause on that, and then we'll come back to it in just a moment. All right. So once you get the checklist, then you take that checklist and you go out and you utilize it in your building. That's what task 2 is. Task 2 is gathering the needs assessment, looking for the gaps. So utilizing the checklist of best practices, it says created in task 1. So however you want to do it is fine. If it is created, then, and you choose to create one, which is totally all right, just make sure it's based on what the research says. There is an argument there that, how do you know the validity or the credibility of this research tool if you create it? Well, we're not doing a dissertation. We're not putting this before the the committee that certifies research. This is just for you to take a look at your school, which is something that you would do as a principal anyway. If I found something out there that served the purpose that I wanted to serve, I would use it. If I didn't, and it needed to fit the specific dynamics of my school, then I would create it as an administrator. But anyway, you take that checklist, you go out and you do an observational analysis. You collect that qualitative data about the actual practices occurring in the school, and you identify where the gaps at. If I did all this research and I've got this tool, and this tool is designed to determine the present level of these practices, then how did we do? How did we do? And that's task 1 and task 2. So let's go back down to the prompt. And actually, this is kind of where I wanted to come back into your question. As long as that research tool correlates to these categories, because these are the areas that need to be addressed. These are the specific areas that need to be addressed in your research and the development of your checklist. Is when you do your research, you want to talk about research building efficacy and empowerment among staff. What does a good embedded professional development program? Now, the words don't have to be exact, but it's just a theoretical concept behind these words that you need to make sure that you research and develop your checklist, or find a checklist that correlate. How is recruitment, placement, and mentoring happening at the school? How are staff evaluated? How are teachers used, and teacher leadership and decision making? So that checklist that you have, whether you find it online or whether you use one that's being currently used in your district, you need to draw the correlation between that and these areas. Now I'm going to pause. Is there any questions about that? Groovy. Great question.
I have a question, Dr. Bullis.
Yes, sir.
So the best practices are related to practices of the administrators evaluating teachers. Yes, not related to teacher best practices. We're referencing best practices related to an administrator's role. And
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it is more along the practices of the school in general, not necessarily the principal, not necessarily the teacher, but what's occurring in that school as far as best practices of school efficiency. So is there activities generated, whether it's generated by the school leadership team or the principal, that allow for teachers to be empowered?
Okay, then I guess okay, then I guess I'm a little confused with regards to the checklist. Then, if we were to use a checklist, like if we were doing a walkthrough, that would only really be looking at one aspect, right? That's not gonna be a checklist for all of understanding the school's best practices. That would only a walkthrough checklist would only represent one particular aspect of teacher best practices.
Yeah, the checklist isn't necessarily going from classroom to classroom and just looking at what's occurring in the teachers. You want to look at the professional development plan. You want to look at school leadership, like this leadership team. So it's all aspects of the school. And if I said, it's just going into the classroom, looking at teachers, then I apologize if I misled you on that.
All right. Well, no, y'all good. I've just been hearing walkthrough checklist a lot, and that's not to you, but I need that to be clarified.
Yeah, great question. I want to make sure we get everybody on the same page and you're understanding this, because it's a total school qualitative observation. And the checklist is whether it's occurring in the classroom or whether it's occurring in the leadership team meetings, or it's just the different plans that's available at the school, even the NC STAR plan. That's where you would go to kind of check it off. Any other questions?
I do again, I'm sorry.
No problem.
So if we were to have this checklist for the school, and then also in turn use the one that's already been created by our school or our district, could we create the one that matches the best practices for the school and only utilize the one where we're going through to observe, like for task 2 where we're going to go through to observe? Could we just choose like the second part of teacher observance, or do we actually still need to send out the one that we're creating for the entire school?
Great question. You can combine it any way you need to. Just remember, and we kind of went over this in APSL, the value is not in checking these tasks off and checking this APTL off. The value is in the learning and the experience that you will gain through this exercise. So we don't want to create boxes that's just going to be that we're just going to be able to present saying, okay, I did this. Let's do something that has meaning. Let's do something specific to your school. That's where you're going to gain the value in this exercise, because you look at what's needed for your specific school. And then you utilize that information and you pull all that information in to make good decisions about your school. So if it's combining the two, or if it's using part of one here and part of the other there, we're not going to get that much into the weeds. but you make it to where it's going to be a most benefit to your school. All right, are we good on task 1? And there again, if you have some specifics and you want to send me an email and say, hey, Joe, I'm thinking about using this. This is why I'm thinking about using it. Let me know. And that's another point. Whatever you decide to do, justify that action in your narrative. If you use part of this or you create part of this and you create it based on the research that you went through, tell them why, because you see a need, you want to identify these specific needs at your school, but displaying this, talk about that in your narrative, because once again, that's what a principal does. That's what a school administrator does, is they look at the specific needs of their school and then they make decisions based on what their school needs. 300 student rural school does not have the same needs and will not have the same gaps as a 600 school that's in the middle of town. So you got to be able and have that experience of knowing that as you walk in as an administrator, and then customizing the things that you use with the teachers and the students to fit your school. All right, so
Dr. Bullis,
go ahead, Heather.
just a quick question just to throw it out, just to make sure I'm on the right line of thought and train of thought. So, for example, like at my school, our administrators come around and try to offer each teacher like a 20-minute break during the day where the administrator will sit in the classroom with the students and they'll say, go to the restroom, go to the lounge. I mean, that would just be something that would be an example of a best practice of, empowering teachers and,
I think so.
I
Absolutely. I used to do that when
Okay.
I was administrator. I used to take lunch duty off the teachers, and I would do. It was a small school, but I'd do lunch duty for them every day as long as I could. So yeah, I think that's a good example. But there's in building efficacy and in empowerment, and I don't think you would be hard pressed to find research to back that up.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm on the right train of thought.
Yeah, that would be something that could be, an example that you used.
Dr. Bullis.
Yes, sir.
On the prompts and stuff, you know how last semester you were like, make sure this certain thing, because when we get I think it's the turn it in score or whatever, do we need to like copy this, like snip that out or whatever and paste that into our other part, or is there another, does that make like where you've got prompt 1 and prompt 2, do we just need to cut that out or whatever and put it in our paper?
Drew, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I tell you what, that is a 180 on the way we used to do it at Gardner Webb. It is fine if you leave that in there now. I think the Aptal template that you're given in the content on the Aptal template that I referred to, it says leave all that stuff in there. Now I'm going to tell you Joe's opinion on that. I don't like it. I don't like it because I think it pushes up the turn it in score. I said it makes the paper longer. And I mean, I've been at this a long time. I know what I'm looking for. I got the rubric. I know what I'm looking for from the rubric. Some of the evaluators out there, they don't know the task as well, I guess, as maybe I do. So they need the description and the prompt to help them know what they're looking for. I just read the scale handbook. All right, so it's okay, it's recorded, and this may be the last time you ever see me because I may have just talked myself out of this job. But man, I tell you, I don't get it. I don't get it. Take that stuff out of there. I just want to see what's coming from you. I know what's in the scale handbook. I know what the prompt and description say. I just want to see what you got to say. But Gardner Webb, from like I said, last semester, they said leave it in there. So leave it in there. It's understood in the turn it in score that if you've got it in there and the hits come from the Gardner Webb, it's not a problem, and I'm okay with that. We'll do it that way. So yeah, great question. It's okay to leave it in there, and which is totally opposite from what I've been telling people to do for the last 13 and a half, 14 years. But that's okay. We'll make a change if we need to. Great question.
I have another question.
Sure.
I have a Todd question.
Todd question.
It's really not for Todd, but it's an irresponsible question. My question is, when exactly would you like our task 1 submitted? Because that's where I was saying like the disconnect between our 602 and you. So we're not submitting our papers to our course instructor, correct?
Based on what I've heard from Dr. Sanders and Dr. Neal, that's correct. Once you get your peer review or whatever done, you send it to them. If they don't want to look at the aptal, then go ahead and send it to me. But I'm gonna tell you straight up, as far as due dates go, I don't give due dates.
And I know you're flexible. However, I just need, like, for the group of folks that I'm working with, you know, we kind of transitioned over from 601 together just because we're familiar with each other. Like, when, because I am behind the curve right now. I feel like I am lost with task 1 until tonight. You know, I've got a little bit more guidance and I appreciate that. But when should that be due to my group? I know we don't have assigned groups, but like when, just to kind of give us a flexible / hard deadline of when those are due. I don't know if anyone else is struggling with that, but me, I don't know.
Well, I tell you what I would recommend, but like I said, I don't do due dates. Once, you know, and I'll tell you, I've told you my philosophy on that, and I'll repeat it briefly here, is when my superintendent comes in and he wants something from me, he doesn't say, I need this part by this day, I need this part by this day, I need this part by this day. He just says, get it done. And so part of my leadership competency is determining and pacing that out for myself. So that's why I don't do due dates. I'm not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just don't. If you kind of want a sample, you can take evidence completion here. You can look at that if you want to. If it is just killing you and you've got to have that, then give me a chance to look at where we're at and what we got coming our way. Send me an email to remind me of this, and I'll throw some due dates out there, because, you know, part of what I do also is differentiate according to the needs of my students, just like you do in the classroom. So if you want some due dates, all I ask is you give me a chance to look at it. I'll give you those due dates, but I'm gonna have to I'm not just gonna throw them out there. I want to make, you know, base it off of good information. So just send me an email to remind me of that, and I'll try to put some out for the end of the week. How's that sound?
I will definitely send the email. However, I'm just curious of how many other classmates would like some flexible / hard deadlines. So if you guys
Ashley, it was straight up a Todd question, because my group texts each other. We've been saying the same thing all week. I guess a question that we kind of really have is, should we be done with this first copy by Sunday? And we're all struggling with the other classwork. So most of us, I mean, we have, what, 5 people in our group, Drew? Mm-hmm. And I think most of us haven't started. Like, we're just lost. You're helping.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. You shouldn't have this done by Sunday. I don't, you know, that's fine if you don't. It's okay. It's okay.
Well,
man, I'm glad you guys brought this up. I did not realize that this was a burden on your shoulders. No, don't worry about that, man. We just started this semester. What is this, week 2? We just started week 2. So no, don't worry about this. This is going to flow. Actually, the hardest part is going to be the research piece. But once you get the research piece, once you decide on the checklist, once you kind of pull that checklist information, then it's just a matter of analyzing the data and doing an action plan. Don't have to worry about school of ed disposition. Don't have to worry about competency analysis. As far as the competency folio goes, you know, you want to just be sure you stay hold of those artifacts, and then you can pull them in later. No, okay, I will look at it, and you know, when I first started this gig and we switched over to this MELS program like we got now, I used to give due dates for the spring semester and the fall semester. So I'll go back and kind of look at some of my old notes and see what I used to tell people. But right now, I'm not surprised to hear that you're still working on task 1. It's okay. It's okay. just like I said with Dr. Church, if you're in Dr. Church's class or even Dr. Todd's class, we'll get through this. I'll get you through this. Just the expression on the faces that I just saw when I told you don't have to have it by Sunday lets me know how important this is to several of you. So I'll get you some due dates in there, and we'll get it taken care of. Still got a 15-week course, okay?
I just think, like Ashley was saying with the disconnect, like on Dr. Neal's timeline, it says that our draft should be due by Sunday, but she gave us like no insight. Like you're giving us like detailed information. Like now we kind of know what we're supposed to do, but obviously now between Thursday and Sunday is not a lot of time for us to really do something with all the good information that you've given us. So I think that's where some of the stress was coming in. Like we kind of have these deadlines based on her outline of the class, but we weren't given a lot of information to get started.
Okay. So, yeah, because we just started this.
With Dr. Sanders.
I'm sorry, Heather, could you repeat that?
We had the same timeline with Dr. Sanders with her weekly schedule. It was saying we had to have our draft turned in by Sunday.
Oh, my goodness. And that's turned in to me or to her?
To you.
It didn't really specify. I mean, but it's pretty much you because she said not to turn it in to her, to send it straight to you, but
yeah,
it said draft this Sunday and peer reviews the next, and I mean she's got it laid out that the final draft should be in by the first week of February.
Okay, all right, I hear you. I'll send an email to them and let them know what we talked about. I'll do that tonight. As long as they don't have to turn it in, you have to turn it into them, and even if you do, I'll tell them, hey, let's push back a little bit as far as push that timeline back a little bit. Yeah, Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think with their timeline though, just because I'm looking at it right now, it just gives us a little bit of a cushion. Like their final date, like the final submission is supposed to be April 12th through the 18th. Well, that gives us a little bit of time because the semester doesn't end until the 27th. So I guess they're just trying to get us on the right page just to kind of, all right, if something messes up, we do have 2 weeks to kind of flex what we need to do here and there.
Well, that's a good point, Drew, and part of that, the reason that's built into that is part of that is when you send it off for evaluation through TaskStream, which, like I told you last semester, we're not going to send it to TaskStream until I know it's at least a 3 or a 4. So you shouldn't get something back. And I think, that in the last 3 semesters, I might have had one candidate come back to me and say, I need to revise based on what the evaluator told me. So that usually doesn't happen to me. But what's built into that is in case the evaluator does say, hey, I need you to make some revisions, then you've got some buffer there to make some revisions. But, if you're not having to turn anything into them, and I'll kind of clarify that, or I'll just let them know what I've told you, then don't worry about submitting that task 1 on Sunday, because there again, you can't be responsible playing a game if you don't know what the rules are yet. And so you haven't had any direct instruction on task 1, then you can't, it's okay if, we're not going to make you turn in task 1 without getting some instruction on it. You get in that tonight. So.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, even though we don't have hard deadlines, which is fine, we are submitting peer reviews to you because our course instructor does not, she said last week she does not want those.
No, you're not submitting peer reviews to me. I don't go through the peer review. Now the peer review just because she's not asking for it, just because I'm not asking for it, because I do not ask for peer reviews. That doesn't take away the value of doing that. That's your first level of reviewing the document and getting it in good shape to get it to me. So still do that.
That's my question, because we were kind of wondering, like, do we submit it to you
Nope.
prior to the peer reviews, or just go ahead and kind of get feedback from our group members and then submit it to you once we're ready, and then go from there?
That's correct.
Ashley, just for your sake, I didn't hear that. I think she said that this just goes into that Blackboard course, we just upload those. And I mean, I don't know if she's going to read them or not, but I don't remember her saying that they go to Dr. Bolus.
Correct. I just had I guess I'd missed where she said to put them. So that's my flaw. And then my next thing was, as far as, you know what, never mind. I'll pause on that one.
Which I guess with that, Dr. Bullis, I mean, I know their dates are you're saying not to have it in by Sunday, but like we're supposed to have the peer review done by next week. Like we're supposed to have our first peer review by Wednesday of next week. Mm-hmm. So it's really like, to a point, it's like, how in the world can we get a peer review done without really having the meat? We just got kind of the fluff with no meat behind it till tonight.
Yeah, well, no problem. You know, and I'm good with that. You get your papers in good shape. You have your peer review on Wednesday, then just get it to me after that. I'm fine with that. Like I said, you guys, you're capable of managing your time and pacing yourself to get these tasks done. You know, and this is always the challenge, is when you're dealing with different course instructors and they have different way of doing things, but you know, your students go through the same thing. You know, I had Mr. Stewart for you know, biology, and he was totally different than Mrs. Graham when I had her for general science. They just did things different ways, and that was part of the figuring it out and you know, and making adjustments based on that. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm the gatekeeper on the APTL. I'm the gatekeeper on when it goes to task stream. So I'll take care of you in that respect, and you know, I'll lay some deadlines out there, or some, I don't even call it deadlines. I'll lay some guidelines out there for you. And if you don't make it, that's fine, man. If you God forbid, if you end up getting COVID and you don't feel like writing it, I'm not going to hold you to that deadline. Life happens. You know, we got ball games, we got kids, we got spouses. You know, we got the hot water heater that goes out on the weekend. I get all that, and we can make adjustments. And if we fall behind, then we'll regroup and we'll move back ahead and get back on task. There is a lot of buffer in there, and there is a large degree of flexibility. Summer, a little bit different, but summer will flow a little quicker. And what you do for your summer evidence, you're going to be able to come back and use some of the stuff that you're doing right now. So you're not going to be doing a lot of, you know, creating. It's more or less of doing some adjustments. So we'll worry about that in the summer. I opened that door, but I'm going to close it right back, because we're not going to talk about that. We're going to focus in on this semester.
I think I am going to finish my statement as far as there is a lot of reading, which I'm not complaining. I'm just saying there is a lot of reading that you have to do to be able to answer these questions, and the city or CITI, however you say that, doing that, all of those modules, it's very time consuming. And so that's where, and she said she was flexible on that as long as we got done in the first couple weeks, but there's just so much going on, and I just feel like we need to know when exactly is our most important piece is the APTL, correct?
Yeah. No, you know, I'm not going to say that what I do with you is more important than what the course instructor does. It all plays together for the good of the cause. All right, so we're like at 8:02 right now. I am okay if what you need is to talk to you a little bit about task 2. Look at that prompt, look at the rubric. However, if you're just right now working on task 1, is that going to be beneficial for you to talk about task 2 right now? You let me know.
No.
Okay, I've got.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that since we are going to have to utilize it, and you were saying to kind of, you know, separate 2. Am I lagging?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you, Ashley.
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Feel free to type it into the chat. There was a chat question that I do want to address. Okay, the question was, for prompt 1 on task 1 list, recruitment, placing, and mentoring all as one component, do we need to address each one of those specifically? I ask because while I understand that they are interconnected, I also think that they could be used as different things. And that kind of goes back to designing and making it specific to your school. If that's important to you and in what you want to look at your school, if it's better to kind of separate those out a little bit, that's okay. If you feel comfortable grouping them together, then that's okay as well. Ashley, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit, but you feel free to type into the chat what you need discussed. What I kind of got was a mixed signal on the task 1. Let me stop the share here for just a second so I can see everybody at one time. I'm okay to go into task 2, but if you just want to focus on task 1 right now, what I can do is I'll make a recording going over the same things and doing what I usually do for task 2. And when you're ready to view it, you can view it. If that's tonight, well, I won't get it done tonight. If that's Saturday, because I'll probably get this done tomorrow, then you can look at it Saturday. If you want to look at it the first of next week, that's fine too. Would that be good for everybody? Okay, groovy. So I'll make a recording on task 2. I'll go over it specifically, kind of give you the meats and potatoes that I did on task 1. And if you have any questions after you view the recording, get in touch with me and I will answer those questions. Before we leave tonight, if you're good and you've had enough and you're tired of looking at my face, I understand. You can cut out of here anytime. I'm going to keep recording and you can go back and record it because, you know, I don't want anybody's head to explode. If you still need some support on task 1, I'll be happy to hang around here as long as you want me to. We'll continue the recording and we'll talk about task 1. But if you've had enough, then you guys, you know, go out and have a relaxing evening. Go out and take a deep breath in the cool air. It will be okay. I have done this for 14 years, and I know that I will get you through this. Just always, if you trust me and have faith in me, then know that I will get you through this. And don't carry that burden. Don't carry. You got enough to carry. You can just give that over to me, and I'll take care of that. You need deadlines, I'll get you the deadlines. You need recordings, I'll get you the recordings. If you feel like you need to say, hey, I want an individual Zoom session, I want to pull up my paper, I want to look at my paper line by line, and you tell me how I'm doing, we'll make that happen. If you want me to Zoom with just your group, we'll make that happen. I just give me a couple of days or a couple of, give me a couple of days to schedule it out, but we'll make it happen. But it's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. It's just a matter of trying to get started. Right now, all you need to worry about, it's kind of like Dr. Church and I, if you were in that cohort, Dr. Church and I told you, just focus on getting that research done, that annotated bibliography done on best practices. Just focus on writing that. All right, so thank you, Ashley, for typing that out. I know your fingers are probably sore, but I appreciate that. I don't know what the lag problem is. It just kind of comes and goes. But okay, the comment, question, statement was, I think you already answered that we could describe in our narrative for task 1 that we could use a specific part or a walkthrough observation checklist to complete task 2. And knowing that we may have more time to complete task 2 beyond next Sunday, great. I'm glad you feel better. Thank you. You are very welcome. We are in this together, because I don't know if I haven't told you this before, I should have. But your number one job when you get an assistant principal, your number one job, I had an old time principal tell me this a long time ago, and I've always stuck by it. Your number one job is to make that principal look good. And if you make that principal look good, the school looks good. If the school looks good, then the community looks good and everybody's happy. My number one job is to make you look good. If I make you look good, you become successful administrators, then your schools are going to look good, make Gardner Webb look good. And that is, I am totally invested in that and making you successful. So just, take a deep breath. We'll get through this. Send me your questions, and I'll do the recording on task 2, and then I'll put some deadlines out there of when I'll just kind of approach it by this. Usually I get worried about a certain point. Now I don't know what that is. It's just kind of a feel. It's like, my wife, when she does some cooking, she follows the recipe exactly. When I make my chicken stew, I throw in a little bit of this, I throw in a little bit of that. Well, what is that, a cup? Is that a third of a cup? Well, I don't know. I just kind of, whatever it looks like, so that's kind of how I approach deadlines. So I'll go and say, well, when would I get nervous if somebody didn't hand me task 1, or I didn't see the first part of task 1? I'll look at that, and when I will feel like I might be getting nervous, I'll put a date on that, and I'll get that to you. Okay. All right. Anything else? Now, like I said, if you want to go cut out, then cut out. If you want to stay here, then stay here, and we'll do some more stuff. So you just let me know if you're good to go. Have a great night. I hope you and your family stay safe. I hope and pray you and your family stay safe and healthy, and you guys take care of yourself. Call on me if you need me. I'm staying here. You guys cut out if you want to. I'll stay here till the last man, woman, child is standing.
I think I'll just wait for your recording.
Okay, Ashley, no problem. Have a good evening. Todd, you doing okay, buddy?
Yeah, I think we were just the special kids that needed the extra stuff. I'm just, I'm happy it's not due Sunday. Like,
yeah, sure.
But once I get going on it, I'll be fine. So I haven't even started it yet because I was kind of waiting for you. But what they're saying is right. In Dr. Sanders, it's saying that we have stuff due Wednesday for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Drew and I text while you're talking. I know that's telling on us, but like we were texting back and forth, and